Alrighty, so here it goes. I hadn't posted anything in a while, guys, so I'm gonna go ahead and shoot a little podcast video to throw up on the channel. Um, I know I've been promising fishing videos. I hadn't quite figured out exactly how to make those work. Life's been a little hectic. Y'all know how it is. Um, but we're gonna talk about some topics that kind of stirring up the world a little bit. So there's been some changes or potential changes in, sorry, my daughter leaving her hoodie all over the place. Um, some regulations involving national parks. Not a whole lot has been said exactly as to what's going to change. And I'm really not going to address any specific parks. A couple different reasons. One, I don't want to be blasting these public lands and get accused of spot burning. But there's been, like I said, some potential changes coming up. One of the changes, or the biggest thing that I've seen that I've read, is in these national parks that allow hunting, they're trying to expand access for those of us who like to hunt and fish on public lands. And essentially, from everything that I've read and looked into, it seems like they're basically saying because I said so is no longer a valid reason to add extra regulations and stipulations according to property to property. That's what I'm trying to say. Park to park. They are. It is my interpretation that all that they're trying to do is gain an understanding for extra stipulations and reasons behind some of these regulations. And as it read is, or as it was stated that I read, it basically is forcing these parks to justify their rules because I said so is no longer a valid reason. So it basically said that they need to loosen up on their property specific regulations unless they can justify it through safety, user safety, or protection of our resource. So kind of interested to see really how that comes out. One of the things that was stated, I'm not going to say the name of the property, but one of the things that was kind of brought up was in one of the parks they were saying that they were going to allow cleaning game in the bathroom of the park. I have mixed feelings about this. Not saying anybody watching for sure, but we've all run into those guys who don't really take care of our properties, our campsites. They don't clean up after themselves very well, and my philosophy has always been anywhere that I go in a camp, hunt, fish, whatever, my entire goal is to leave the property in better shape than what I got there in. I leave it the same, if not better, than the way it was when I got there. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people who don't seem to take that viewpoint, so I can see that becoming a problem. With that being said, this particular park, I personally have not laid eyes on their facilities. I'm actually planning on this next deer season going out there and checking it out, so stay tuned for that. Hopefully I can get some cool footage and put something out for you as far as that goes. Still learning how to tell the hunting story, so to speak. But I could see this as both an advantage and disadvantage. Like I said, we all know the guys who don't clean up after themselves that well. Uh, and so I can see that posing a problem. There's the negative side. However, depending on the way their facility's set up, um, if they have a designated cleaning area to where we can clean and take care of our game, that'd be kind of cool. You know, you don't get that in a lot of different places. You know, I'm going to look at it more of from the fishing aspect, less the hunting aspect on this particular circumstance. We've all been there where, you know, we're cleaning fish on the bed of, you know, in the bed of the truck on the tailgate, something like that. If they put a little cleaning station in there where you had a table with running water to where you could take care of your fish and get everything cleaned up, that'd be awesome. You know, give us a place to so we can clean up that kind of game. As far as like bigger game, deer, hogs, birds. Birds are really bad. Feathers go everywhere. That's a whole different ball game, and it's kind of hard for me to speak on that because I haven't seen the facilities. I don't know if there's going to be like a specific cleaning station. I mean, I see a lot of potential good, but I also see some potential catastrophic outcomes as far as that goes. Uh, so keep an eye on those regulations. You know, keep an ear out. I do like the fact that our current government administration is trying to increase access for those of us who like to hunt and fish. Um, Having more properties or more opportunities is something that you know, those of us who don't own land or a lease or anything like that's a really big thing. Um, and hopefully it'll help spread us out a little bit more. That way we're not as congested, not on top of each other. We're not stepping on each other, ruining each other's hunts. I mean, access is a big thing. So I'm a big component of increasing the access. Just doing it properly and thoroughly thought out. I mean, I understand certain circumstances where safety may come into play or the population of the resource in that particular area. I'm not saying that we should put anything at risk, but I do like the fact that those regulations are going to have to be justified. Um, it's not just because we said so. Uh, with that being said, let's go ahead and move on to the next topic because, I mean, there's not a whole lot of information on that. So, the next thing I'm going to talk about, kind of a little bit, touch base on, is probably going to, might ruffle some feathers, especially with the whitetail guys. Not bashing the whitetail guys. Let me throw that out there. I mean, you know, we're all out there doing the same thing. I love the entire outdoor community, but you know, I'm talking about the hardcore whitetail guys. And there's nothing wrong with what they do. You know, there's guys who go out and hunt a deer for an entire season. It's that deer and none. And I'm not gonna bash you for it. You know, you do you. Enjoy the outdoors in your way. Which is a great segue into what I'm talking about. Antler restrictions. I'm going to give my personal opinion on it. So I live in Texas. A lot of areas in Texas we have antler restrictions. They have to have an inside spread of 13 inches at the widest points of the antlers. And I understand trying to increase age class or population. Like, I can understand the biology behind some of these restrictions or the idea behind them. With that being said, I don't agree with them at all. So, uh, if you were gonna have antler restrictions, I would be more in support of like a point restriction. There's some states, I can't name any off the top of my head, but I know they're out there. There's some areas where the restriction is a legal buck is a animal who has 4 points on one side. If you're going to have an antler restriction, that makes a lot more sense to me. I understand the biology that there could be a year and a half 8 point, 2 year 8 point. However, like I understand that not all deer grow their antlers equally, and that's actually kind of my problem behind antler restrictions. Um, because I mean, what if you run into a 5-year-old or a 4-year-old that grow a basket rack? 100, it might be 150 inch, 150s. That's a long shot, but like 120 inch uh, basket rack deer that's 5 years old, but his antlers grew up instead of out. His G2s are stupid long, and he's got this big wrap of a main beam, but it's basket rack, and it's 12 and 7/8 wide. It's not legal in Texas, and I don't agree with that. Um, Honestly, the same thing with point restrictions. My biggest argument against this is, yes, I understand. Once again, trying to increase the age class or whatever, it may be put in place from a biological perspective of protecting the resource. However, I feel like it adds a element that takes away from the hunt. Um, Me personally, I mean, I think that if a deer walks in front of you and gets your blood flowing, it shouldn't matter if it's a spike, a doe, or you're poking young or Boone and Crockett, class deer, whether it's a 150 class, 120 class, or a little spike. If it gets your heart racing, get your blood pumping, I fully believe that you should be able to fill your tag and have that experience. Uh, it's hunting for me is a different thing. Uh, I'm not going to say that I have anything against trophies. Uh, I want to put some antlers on the wall. I think any hunter really does. I mean, because that's something that you can have on your wall and keep with you, and it's a story, right? Um, but antlers aren't everything. I'm there for the meat. I'm there for the camaraderie at deer camp. I'm there for the experience of the outdoors. Uh, Really there for the meat. Uh, I love deer meat, man. Venison's delicious. Um, which we'll get into that in a little bit. But uh, let me know what you guys think. I mean, I've pretty much laid it out. I don't have a whole lot to say on it. Other than that, uh, I think that if you're willing to put your tag on a deer that isn't a fawn, doesn't have spots, you know, uh, I think that you should be able to. Like, there's a reason we have a limited number of tags. Um, and I just feel like the antler restrictions is kind of forcing or trying to force a more business side to our outdoor experience where, oh, well, if we have more 125s or more 150s in our area, we can turn into the next Iowa, okay, land of the giants. We all want to hunt there. Let's not sugarcoat it. And if any of us go, we're going for antlers, unless you live there. But anybody who travels to Iowa, like their whole idea is wall hangers. Um, Me included. I'd love to go hunt Iowa. I would. I'd love to put a giant, massive, just beautiful specimen of the species from Iowa on my wall. But some of these areas that do the antler restriction, I feel like they're trying to become that. They want to be known as like the trophy state or whatever it may be. And my personal opinion is it's not your business to tell me what a trophy is to me. You know, uh, I mean, I may shoot a 120 inch, 125 inch 8-point, and I'd come up with this great, I'd end up with this great story about the process and everything like that, but I did it on a solo hunt. And then, the next year, whatever the circumstance may be, the next one that I shoot might be a spike, might be a doe, but my daughter was sitting with me in the blind, or my son, or my dad, and that could be a lot more meaningful, honestly would be a lot more meaningful to me than this giant rack that I put on the wall hunting by myself. So yeah, that's just my opinion on it. Take it or leave it. I'd love to hear what y'all have to say in the comments, but I'm there to fill my freezer and make memories. Wall hangers are just a nice bonus if you happen to get one. Going into the last subject that I'm going to cover on this one, told myself it was going to be a little bit shorter video, but it looks like we're still going to run about 20, 25, 30 minutes maybe. I don't know, we'll see. Last topic that I want to cover is my opinions about want and waste laws. There is nothing negative I can say about a want and waste law, other than the fact that I think that they're not strict enough. State of Texas, you're required to keep the quarters, the bag straps. Trying to remember if there's anything else, but it is basically the choice cuts. Like, you're required to take the back straps, the quarters, maybe the neck roasts, not sure. I've never really concerned myself with that much, and the reason is because of my outlook on hunting. I think that I think you should be required by law to harvest all usable meat off the animal that you put down. Once again, antlers are nice, but like, hunt for food. That's the glory of it to me. I think that you should be required by law to take all usable meat. There's a lot of people in Texas who leave the rib cage of their deer out. They don't take any of the rib meat or anything like that. And to me, that is not, it's not a proper use of the resource. I mean, there's certain things that I will take out of the woods that, some of y'all may not, that I could kind of agree with leaving there. Namely the heart and the liver. But by all means, guys, like, enjoy hunting, enjoy the resource, but like, respect the resource. Respect the animal that you put down. Take all the meat out. Feed your family. Deer ribs. I don't know if you've ever tried to cook deer ribs. It is a monster. Okay, if you don't do it right, they come out super tough, super leathery. A lot of trial and error there to get it right. I have, my methods where I have cooked, racks of deer ribs, and they came out real good, but it's tricky. And if you're worried about that, the thing about deer specifically and deer ribs, there's not a lot of meat there. Not a lot of meat. Super thin, super lean. If you don't want to try to barbecue a rack of deer ribs, that's fine. Take the meat anyway. That's more that you can add to your grind pile. That's something that you can turn into more hamburger or ground meat that you can use for many different things. Hopefully I can do some cooking videos for y'all at some point. May even feature my brother a little bit on there, as far as that goes. That'd be cool. Show you kind of how I like to do it, how we kind of do it down here in Texas. But yeah, take that rib meat, man. Like, grab the bone out from, or grab the meat from in between the bones. Worst case scenario, it's in your grind pile, or it's a really thin meat. It makes really good jerky. You know, there's a lot of different things that you can do if you just want to get creative. You know, like, I feel like hunting and cooking are a hand-in-hand thing. Like, I don't know very many people who like to hunt that don't know how to cook. If you don't know how to cook, it's not that hard, you know. Like, there's some people who will mentor you, grab you a cookbook. Steve Ranella, with Meat Eater, he has a cookbook. It's got some really awesome recipes in there. I think, to be 100% honest with you, I own the book. I've looked through it, picked out a dozen recipes out of the book. I was like, man, I gotta try this, and I haven't done any of them. You know, and he calls for a lot of ingredients that your average Joe just might not have on hand. You know, he asks for a bunch of fresh stuff, and I'm sure it's delicious. It's just like every time it's like, man, I'm gonna do this. It's like, oh, well, I don't have this, I don't have that. You know, it's something that I would have to plan out. But I mean, there's cookbooks out there. Anything that you would do with anything store bought, you can. I promise you can do the same thing with game meat. The only difference is going to be duration of cook. I fully believe that's really going to be your main difference, is the duration of cook. Going back to a Meat Eater reference, one of the things that Steve Ranella says several times, you know, throughout his media presence and talking about how to cook game and everything like that, is most people who say they don't like game, they're making one of two mistakes, and I completely agree with that. They're either not cooking it long enough, or they're cooking it way too long. Game meat's not store bought. It's a little leaner, a lot leaner. Doesn't have the fat content and stuff like that. So, like, when you're doing steaks and stuff like that out of game meat, in my opinion, rare is the way to go. Depending on the game, got to throw that out there. Got to be cognizant of, you know, whatever diseases and, well, not really disease, parasites that you may have to worry about, like bear meat. Okay, don't ever eat rare bear meat. It's got to be well done. Trichinosis is a real thing. Hogs, same thing. Your cervids, deer, moose, elk, anything in that family, that's a little bit different. That's perfectly safe to eat rare, generally speaking. Or at least I've never gotten sick off of it. Let me just put it that way. Not a medical professional. Do not, like, take my advice with a grain of salt. Okay, I'm telling you what tastes good, in my opinion. Like, this is all very opinionated. You know, wild duck, in my opinion, tastes better on the rare side. You know, but just, once again, just kind of be cognizant of safety for you. I eat a lot of things that I wouldn't recommend anybody else eating. I'll also throw that out there. Like, I've got a cast iron stomach. I can get away with a lot of stuff. But, you know, just be respectful of your game. Be respectful of the animal. Shanks. That's another. That's another piece that's left in the woods way too often. And let me tell you something about a shank. It doesn't matter if you go all fancy with it and you do like an ossobuco or something like that. You can take a whole shank. If you got a crock pot big enough, take a whole shank, throw that thing in the crock pot, slow cook it just like you would a pot roast. And as long as you cook it low and slow, it's just as good as anything else. There's ways to prepare each cut of meat. I mean, it's the same thing. Like, you're not going to go to the store and buy a rack of ribs and, a ribeye steak and then come home and prepare them and cook them in the same way. It's the same thing with your game. I mean, it's the same thing. It's the exact same thing, you know. There's different ways to prepare different cuts. There's ways to make the less tender cuts of meat very tender, very edible, and delicious. Uh, you just got to put a little bit of work into it. Um, and I'm kind of harping on that a little bit because I just got off the phone with my dad, and we had a deep conversation involving hunting and things like that, and what hunting is to us, what fishing is to us, what the outdoors is to us, and we have a different perspective than a lot of people out there, and I understand that. But like, there's something special about going and harvesting your own meat and putting it on the table. Um, it's just different. Uh, I can't explain it unless you've experienced it. And I'm a firm believer that every hunter that may watch this 900% agrees and understands exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, you could go super minimalistic with it. Uh, I mean, there's been dove that I've harvested on my property that I harvested, cooked, cleaned with nothing but butter, salt, and pepper, and it was absolutely delicious. And I think a lot of that has, I mean, yes, it's very, dove is a very tasty game bird to me, but I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that, like, I put in the work for that. I harvested it. Like, I took it from field to table, and so even very minimalistically, it tasted good to me because it's a whole experience. Same thing with fish. I've, I've caught messes of catfish and cleaned them and fried them up, all at the same time. I mean, me and my dad, we went on a trip a while back and, smacked catfish. Uh, to borrow a phrase from Ted Nugent, man, we were whacking and stacking. Um, we took groceries camping with us, and we brought them back to the house and never touched them because we were eating fish. And the cool thing about that particular trip is not only did we eat fresh fish all weekend, but we brought home enough that the family got to enjoy it too. And that catfish, minimalistically fried up, you know, that was better than any catfish I've ever had at a restaurant or anything like that. And I think a lot of it just comes down to I put in the work. Farmers, they can relate to, the vegetables and the things that they grow, the things that come off their farm and go from their field to their table. I'm sure most of them feel the same way. I know that vegetable gardens and stuff that I've done like that, it always tasted sweeter out of my garden. Tomato fresh off the vine, way better than anything in the store. And it's just a whole experience, whole different experience. I kind of hate to word it this way because it might rub some of y'all the wrong way, but it's just it's a spiritual experience in my mind when you put forth the work to harvest your own food, whether it's, all the scouting and hunting and going out there and doing the thing hunting, or tilling up a little patch in your backyard and planting some tomatoes and some peppers or whatever it may be. Um, but doing the work for your food, and you know that no other hands touched your food but yours, or in some of our cases, the guys in deer camp, because we all help each other butcher and stuff like that. But knowing that you did that, um, it's a whole different experience, and I encourage everybody to at least try it out, because you may learn some stuff about yourself, um, that you didn't know. Uh, I mean, it's a whole different thing, and being able to share that work with family and friends, it it's phenomenal. Um, and so I guess I'll kind of leave here, kind of exit on this note of, yeah, do yourself a favor and get into the outdoors. Whether you're hunting, fishing, just camping, hiking, and enjoying nature. As funny as this may be, being as I'm on a platform where you're watching me on a screen, but get away from the screen for a little while. Go experience the outdoors and enjoy it however you see fit. Um, I will tell you that personally, it's a lot better with family and friends. When it comes down to hunting, on a trip, it would mean way more to me to be dragging, my dad's deer out of the woods or my daughter's deer out of the woods, and it wouldn't mind. Just because that'd be something very special to share with them. Uh, don't get me wrong, it's very special to drag my own out too. Because, I put in all that work, and now I get to share it with my friends and family. But, I encourage y'all, and I'm going to challenge some of y'all. Go out there and plant some tomatoes, or grab a fishing rod, catch some catfish, harvest some of your own food. And I challenge you to compare that to anything that you can get in a store. Because even if you're a horrible cook, I promise you, if you put in the footwork, and if you put in the work, that meal would mean a lot more to you than any other meal that you've had, if you've never experienced that. So, yeah, I'm gonna kind of quit preaching and hop in the comments. Tell me what y'all thought about this video. Let me know if y'all like this podcast style, I guess, monologue type thing. Give me some topics to talk about, cover. I'll give you my thoughts on it. Tell me what you thought about, this video, or your opinions on some of the topics that I touched here. Also, if you wouldn't mind, I would love it if y'all like and subscribe. Helps me out a lot. Helps with the algorithm, helps me get my message, and helps me get my message out there. Trying to get more people to enjoy the outdoors, enjoy the resources, and piece together what certain things may mean to them, because that's what the outdoors is to me. That gives me a place to think and piece together myself and my life. And I mean, let's face it, the extra food never hurts. I mean, going and throwing another meat eater reference out there, if it wasn't fun and it didn't provide food, I wouldn't do it. So, but I'm going to challenge y'all to go out there, grow or harvest your own food, Sure, I'll make some more videos well before deer season, being as that's a long ways away. Maybe I can, I'm gonna move some trail cameras around out on my family farm. Maybe I can get some pictures and show you guys, and we can talk about that too. Anyway, so like, subscribe, and get in the comments. Tell me what y'all want to hear, what y'all, what y'all want me to discuss and give my opinions on. And I guess I'll see y'all next time.